Of course, as soon as I start recording, my arm starts itching. I'm one of those people that turns very red. Anyway, let's see if I can knock these out. I'm just sitting down very quickly today. I don't usually record halfway through the month, but I just want to get these 2 reviews out of the way because, I've got some things planned in upcoming weekends and I won't have time to record. So, hi, my name is Alana. Welcome to my YouTube channel. And on this channel, we review books. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate that's not even a Likert scale question. What's my favorite color? I know black is a shade, not a color, but I don't even know if my mother remembers this. When I was young, elementary school age, single digits, I've always loved black. My favorite outfit by the time I was in the 4th grade, so how old was I? About 9 years old. My favorite outfit, especially when it would get cold outside, would be a black top, black jeans, and black boots. Has not changed. And I just swap out my fall and winter blacks for my spring summer blacks. So what does that mean? Cooler materials, silk, cotton, and linen. But still, my favorite go-to outfit is a pair of black jeans, black boots. Now it's a white tee with a black moto jacket, leather. Tell me something. Or still, black sweater, black jeans, in a black Chelsea boot, or a pair of flats. I'll wear a pop of color in the flats though, because I think that's a cool contrast. But man, black is always chic, is it not? I just love things in black. Not saying that I don't like, you know what's interesting? And then I'm going to get to the book review. I love black and neutral clothing, but in my environment, I want color. That's why my nails are always usually painted bright colors. If you were to go to my house, and especially my living room, it's very colorful. But on my person, I like neutrals, even though it's a shame because my skin tone can wear really fun colors. I can wear fun colors like reds and oranges and yellows and stuff, but I have a couple of those, but the neutrals are where it's at. Anyway, today's book review is The House on Sun Street by, I should have learned how to pronounce her name. She's Iranian. I'm going to pronounce it by the last name. I can pronounce the last name. Ghazirad. So, this was sent to me last year. I want to say around the summer. Might have been late summer, mid to late summer. By K Publicity / Blair Publishing. And last year I would say by late August into September, my reading slowed down a lot. And that's fine. It hasn't picked back up. I think it's probably gotten a little bit slower. It has gotten a little bit slower, and it's fine. I've been really enjoying a more normal pace to my reading just because it is what it is. But because this was sent to me, I have a rule. I've said this before. Whenever a book is sent to me by a publicity company or the publisher or both, I'm going to read it because they didn't have to send it to me. I accepted it. I should read it. This is why I don't accept many books because, again, I don't know when I'm going to be able to get to it. Some companies don't care. They just want you to read it if you can. Sometimes they're no obligation. They're like, feature it if you want to. You don't have to review it. But again, if I'm going to take the book, I'm going to read it. I still have 2 more books I have to get through that were sent to me. A True Account that was sent to me last summer, maybe early fall. I think it was early fall, actually. And Monkey Grip, which was sent to me earlier this year. No, 3. I lied. Summer Heat by Daphne Newman, which is in the queue to read because it's called Summer Heat. Let me read it in the summer. But anyway, this was sent to me, and K Publicity, because they've been sending me books now since I want to say 2021. Yes, before I had a YouTube channel. They know my taste. They know I like historical fiction. They know I like stories that take place in other locations, other countries. Or if it's taking place in the United States, it's highlighting a different culture. Just like American Ending, which I reviewed last year, where's American Ending? Oh, it might be down here somewhere. They sent that to me last year. It takes place in the United States, but it's a Russian immigrant family. And that book was great. So actually, if you liked American Ending, or you were interested in my review, if you watched American Ending, you'll like this. So let me stop rambling. Let's hop in. I believe there are a few particular days in our lives that impact our fate more than any other day. So the house on Sun Street, is narrated by Moji. Moji is Iranian, and she loves visiting her grandparents' house on Sun Street in Tehran. She especially loves her grandfather's stories, which he's memorized them from 1001 Nights. And as Moji grows up from adolescence, so this starts when she's in the single digits and it ends when there is an epilogue of her adult life, but the majority of the story, it's from when she's in the single digits to her teenage years. Her family does briefly move to the United States because her father is pursuing higher education for himself. And they do come back to Iran during the Iranian Revolution. So before they go to America or the United States, it's percolating. But when they come back, even just after a couple of years, it's a very different Iran than the Iran that they left in the 70s. So during these tumultuous times, Moji continues to rely on the comfort of storytelling and books in the midst of chaos. So that's my synopsis. The house on Sun Street. Why is that a tongue twister? The house on Sun Street. Okay, this is so crooked. It's not super crooked, but you know what? It is what it is. If it's not perfectly straight, I don't even care. I just don't. And I know why. It's this tripod. This tripod is a little wonky, but I refuse to buy another tripod until this dies because the light's attached to it. I'm sick of spending money. Inflation. You get what you get. Anyway, why am I this way? The House on Sun Street is one of those novels that bookish people will love. Because it's a book about a character who loves books. And you can tell that the author loves book. Actually, she's I believe she's a literature teacher. She's a teacher, professor, or something like that. Let me take out the PR paper. Oh, I was wrong. She's a medical doctor, and she currently works as an assistant professor in pediatrics at the George Washington. Oh, but she does hold an MFA, a Master of Fine Arts in creative writing. It's evident. See, I'm convinced that people who can do both, the liberal arts and the sciences, are a different type of smart. They're left and right brained. Amazing. I am not. I can do math and science, but it was like math was like, this is such a ramble. I could do it, but certain types of math for me were just like, my brain doesn't work that way. I could do it, and I had to struggle. Anyway, detour. Because who doesn't love a story about a book or books or how books impact our lives, especially when we're going through rough times? There are certain books that are stories that you hold on to during certain periods of your life that are comforts. Perhaps we were not the only nation who, in vain, dipped into the dark ditch of sorcery or soared into the sky to sketch the guise of a hero on the moon. It was mankind's imagination at work. With names, the stories reached the 7-year-old girl from the other side of the world. Moji's referring to herself. With names came the aura and the aroma of the new land, the sunny days and the dark days, the history of the country I had landed in. She's kind of like reflecting on that in the United States, how her grandfather encouraged her to learn the local stories of the country that she was in. And so she also in that way was drawn to like Native American stories and folklore, and that's basically her grandfather telling her the stories of the land that you're in tell you what you need to know about that place in a good way. So, Moji's grandfather does not water down the stories of 1001 Nights. And throughout the novel, we see how Moji, it's funny, so I'm going through my review as I'm reading through my review. It kept editing Moji as Mojito. Stop. So we see how Moji ends up experiencing the harsh realities of life based on what her country is experiencing, what Iran is going through during the revolution. And so from a young age, she was used to stuff being unfiltered because her grandfather refused to filter these stories. Turmoil doesn't discriminate regardless of your age. And so she was taught at a young age, though she didn't necessarily think she would experience certain things. Who can fathom that, right? You can't see the future. She still learned a valuable lesson about going through life without a filter. And again, and I'm going to get to this a little later, it's in this stark contrast because her grandfather didn't filter. During the Iranian Revolution, there were certain books that were considered no-nos to read. And so the author is drawing an interesting distinction here. Agajun never censored the stories for us children. Young, beautiful women cheated on their husbands and sacrificed their lives for their loved ones. They were caught, tortured, and killed, their remains wrapped in rugs, placed inside chests and thrown into deep blue seas, only to be found years later when a lonely sailor longed for a giant fish. What I think that this novel does really well is, and this is on the author, Ghazirad, I hope I'm pronouncing her name right, does a really good job highlighting the politics during this time, but it's not heavy-handed, and it's not judgmental. You can tell what her preference is, but she's paying homage to how even within a family unit, you can have people who were for the revolution and who were not. And she does it in a really graceful way. Even though these characters disagree, at their core, they love their country and they want what they think. They want what is best for their country. They just may disagree on how to get there. And I think that that's something in general I wish that people in this day and age would agree on. You're going to disagree on the methods. You're going to disagree on how to get from point A to point B. There may be some core fundamental belief values that we have that are different. But at the end of the day, people want what is best. I'm talking about your average Joe. I'm not talking about the media will have you think that everybody's in either one extreme or the next. That's not true. Most people are in the middle. They just may lean slightly one way or the other. But, and again, you have to keep in mind that the way that media has twisted language and words, they're calling things in extreme that aren't extreme. It's just typed up language. But anyway, people at the end of the day have the same core values. They want to feel safe. They want to feel secure. They want to be able to afford things in life. They want to be treated with respect, and they want people out of their business. Most often than not, that's what they want. They just disagree on how to get there. They want what's best for the country. They want a safe environment for their families to grow up in. They want people to leave them alone. And they just disagree on the means to the end. She highlights how the impact of the revolution, and she also highlights how the revolution impacted the education system through censorship. Baba and Raza both loved Iran, each in his way, and no matter how differently they regarded the Islamic Republic, they were both ready to defend their country with their lives. Baba said people, her father, can get killed by reading them. I whispered, really? Marmar shrugged and raised her voice. Books can get you killed? Marmar is her younger sister. Their relationship is very, very cute. How can I prove I was just reading and not believing in communist ideas? So she was caught by her parents with the Communist Manifesto, and she was just reading it. Somebody gave it to her to read, and she got caught with it by her parents. And not that her parents didn't encourage reading. They were just like, you could be killed for if you were found with this book. And this is another thing that I think people would realize. Just because you read something doesn't make you become that thing. I read from books that I may disagree with maybe the author's core values, or maybe they are expressing certain values in the book and I fundamentally disagree with it, but I'm still going to read it because I want to see how other people think. I can still at the end of the day, no, I'm not going to change my mind. And I think this is for everybody. Or sometimes I'm like, oh, that's an interesting way to approach that. I still disagree, but that's interesting. I'm picking it where you're putting down. Just because you read it doesn't mean you agree. And I think it's important to read other ideas, to read other points of view, to see how other people are thinking. It's important to know what thought processes are out there, right? And again, just because you're reading it doesn't mean you're believing it. Especially as an adult, I can make up my own mind. Another thing that The House on Sun Street does really well is show the impact of what it's like to live through violent times and to witness gruesome acts and to see violence, especially on children. Again, Moji is a teenager. This isn't a gory book, but it is honest, and it shows the realities of this time period without being heavy-handed or too graphic. So if you're a person who's like, this sounds really interesting to me, is it violent? It's palatable. The author isn't being graphic to be graphic. When she does show something, it's tastefully done, right? I'm stuttering. There may be some elements that, that's uncomfortable to read. It should be uncomfortable to read, but you can tell there's no voyeurism here. She's not being graphic for shock value. That was what I was looking for, the phrase. It's not for shock value, it's reality, but it's not overdone. So if you don't like reading certain types of content, it's not going to be one of those books that you recoil from. Maybe we were too young to grasp the magnitude of the attacks, or maybe we were raised in a constant state of turmoil, accustomed to threats happening every day. We had learned to ignore the menace surrounding us as a survival skill. I was desensitized to the news of human suffering. After so many years of living in crisis, I was emotionally disassociated from the family conversations as if I were in a trance, hearing the horrible news but incapable of perceiving the pain behind it. That last quote in particular, I think that we can all relate to in some point in time, especially over the past 4 years. It's been one crisis after another worldwide. Because of technology these days, we have access to seeing images across the world of horrible things taking place, and everybody wants you to be present about every crisis, right? And it's actually, I think, mentally and emotionally impossible for you to be in a heightened state of emotion about crisis and turmoil all the time. It will wear you out. And then we live in a culture, and I've seen this these days, where if you try to take a break, not post about certain things, try to, create your own social media platform as a place of solace so you can take a break from everything that's going on. Why aren't you speaking out about this? Why aren't you doing that? You don't know how that person is coping. You don't know what's going on behind the scenes. And so, or you don't know if they've just become numb. And I don't mean that in a good way. You don't know. And so it's just, I don't think that the human mind is capable of processing it all at once, all the time. It's just heavy. And it's true. Like, you become desensitized to we can become desensitized to human suffering, whether that's because we're dealing with stuff in our own lives and you can't take anything else, or you just feel so helpless and you're like, I can't process anything else. I'm tired. But people think you're being selfish, but there is a point where your body, your mind will shut down if you don't shut it down. You know what I mean? If you don't take a break, your mind will shut down and say, I can't take any more. One thing at a time, honey. So anyway, that might have been a ramble. I hope I made sense. Let's wrap this up. I really enjoy The House on Sun Street. It's one of those novels that once you sit down to read it, at least for me, the pages flew by, and I got through this pretty quickly. It's not a long book. It's around 300 pages, if not just under 300 pages. But it's the way that it's written. You just sit down and the pages are flying. It's a quick read. But it's not superficial in any way. And by quick, I don't mean flippant or vapid. No, not at all. It's just, you get sucked in. And it's one of those novels that reminds me of the type of summer reading that I would do in my teenage years, or maybe when I was in university and would come home from summer breaks and I could just sit and read for hours. One, because it was too hot to go outside during the heat of the day. And so you would just sat in an air conditioned house and just read for fun. And you had the time to just knock out chunks at a time and escape into another world and into another time and just root for the main character. That is the type of feeling that this book evoked. It's gorgeously written. You can tell that the author has an MFA in creative writing. She nailed it. She knows how to use language and use it well. It's descriptive, but at the same time, there's a coziness to it, even when you get to some of the sections that are not that happy. But it's never trivial. This book is never trivial. Like I said, it's not a vapid book, even though you can just sit and read it compulsively. And I think for readers who have a particular soft spot for a novel set in Iran or in that general location of the world, this is for you. But again, if you like just a good, well-written coming-of-age story where you can root for the main character, House on Sun Street, beautifully written. I'm glad it was sent to me because I don't think I would have known about it otherwise. I gave this a 4 out of 5. Have you heard of this House on Sun Street? Are you interested in reading this book? Feel free to also like, subscribe, and leave me a comment. Also, feel free to follow me on Instagram, where I get up to more bookish shenanigans. All of my book content goes there first. And I like to post goofy things occasionally in the Instagram stories because I mainly, actually, when I get online, I'm not usually looking at book content, believe it or not. I don't really know a bunch of whole new releases or any of that. I just like to get on there and have a good laugh. And I like to sometimes share those laughs in Instagram stories. So there you go. I will see you in the next one. Bye.